Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video we are returning to the top of the line AMD GPUs and taking a look at the Radeon HD 6870. Codenamed Bards and launched in October 2010 for $239 USD. Can this card be a considerably cheaper successor to the last year's HD 5870? Let's find out. The GPU was still made on 40nm node and clocked at 900 MHz, 1050 for the memory. My unit was made by Dell, hence the metal bracket. I do like the red stripes and matte black finish. This card offers wide range of ports. There's 2 mini display ports, an HDMI and also 2 DVRs to choose from. It requires 2 6-pin PCI Express power cables to run. Now then, let's take it apart, starting at the backplate. There's a couple of screws on the I/O bracket, and lastly, the mounting bracket itself. This card was holding together really strong. The cooler is blower type and had some interesting plastic bits on the inside. Are these here perhaps to manage the airflow inside of the cooler? I found loads of dust chunks and used my trusty tweezers along with old brush to get rid of it all. I've also cleared thermal pads with some rubbing alcohol before replacing old thermal paste with some fresh MX4. Much better. Time to put the card back together and move on to some benchmarks. As always, we start in Heaven benchmark, where the HD 6870 scored 632 points. That's some 20 points less than its last year's predecessor, the HD 5870. So far, we've only seen improvements to scores as the new GPUs replace their last year predecessors, and this is a bit unusual, but then the HD 6870 was a lot more affordable, costing 160 USD less than the 5870 on the release day. I will consider using the price to score metrics for the future GPU battle type videos. Stay tuned for those, and perhaps also consider subscribing to this channel so you won't miss on any of the new uploads. Moving over to games, here's Farming Simulator 2019. The HD 6870 managed 34 FPS on average using very high graphical settings.
Yeah, boy.
But we can see its 1 GB of memory is not enough at this resolution. Next up, it's Fallout 4. Mowing those poor raiders at 37 FPS on average was an impressive result. To my surprise, that's 14 FPS more than the HD 5870 pushed a few weeks back. That's interesting. Test Drive Unlimited 2, here we saw 55 FPS on average. Not quite 60, but still very playable. Far Cry 3 ran at almost 36 FPS on average, which is on par with the older 5870. Good result.
Gotta be enough plants.
Dying Light was next on the list, and here the HD 6870 pushed nearly 34 FPS on average, whilst being on the very edge of its VRAM limit.
Crane here.
What's interesting, the minimum FPS is significantly better than of what we saw with the HD 5870. S.T.A.L.K.E.R Call of Pripyat ran okay on the 6870 and we saw just 34 FPS on average. This game also gets the VRAM dangerously close to its limit. This title will happily run on the multi-GPU setups and makes me wonder, how will the rest of the 6000 series scale? Next, we look at Michael's adventure in GTA 5, where we saw 75 FPS on average. Beating the 5870 by 10 FPS and improving on minimums, I'm starting to see some potential here. Still wondering about the whereabouts of Yennefer. Witcher 3 ran rather poorly on the HD 6870, again hitting on the VRAM limit, and we saw just 15 FPS on average. Switching over to Dirt Rally, here the 6870 managed 29 FPS on average, improving on 5870 by just a small margin. And we close the game testing with a classic that the GTA 4 definitely is. Here, the 6870 delivered almost 48 FPS on average, which is enough to allow for smooth gameplay. So, what do we think of the HD 6870? I've managed to purchase mine on the famous auction site for £31 or 41 USD, making it not the best of the purchases. AMD slightly revised its lineup for the 6000 series of GPUs, where the 6870 was not the most powerful single card option because that place was taken by HD 6970. 6870's launch price was considerably lower than of 5870 from last year, and must have been a welcomed change. Not only being cheaper, but also offering on par or better performance in games. Well, what's not to like here? Still, I think the biggest downside of this GPU is the 1GB of VRAM. It's a limiting factor, at least at 1080p resolution. Otherwise, an excellent GPU from Team Red. Did you used to own one or still game on this card? Let me know in the comment section, and as ever, thank you for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.